stand and please allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please silence your cell phones. We had an executive session October 30th for personnel matters, and I have some more to add to that. The position of township manager was duly advertised in various states. The first advertisement being September 11, 2019. The advertisements were placed in the township website, the Lancaster newspaper, the shopping news, on PSATs, on Munster.com, and Indeed. 49 applicants were received, and we looked at 4 of them that were previous township managers. In my opinion, only 2 were looked at. Some of the applicants, one was we didn't look at, was the manager of produced hard boiled eggs. One was the loading, unloading tobacco. Another was the test voting outreach in 10 districts. Some of the 149. August 15th, we had announced executive session to discuss management. Also September 5th, we had an executive session to discuss it. And then October 3rd, we did it again. So tonight, I would like to make a motion. I hereby make a motion to appoint Penny Pollock as Township Manager of East Cocalico Township and authorize the execution of all appropriate and necessary documents. So,
You made a motion?
I made a
I
motion.
will second that one.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. On the second motion, I hereby make a motion that we adopt resolution 2019-19, sets the township manager compensation at an annual salary of $105,000 and the manager's bond in the amount of $2 million. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. I'm proud to announce that Penny is our manager now. She's a very competent individual. She's been around for many years. And moving forward into our next decade, with everything happening in the township, I personally feel very happy that she's here to help us with the staff we have, because we have a competent staff. We need a leader. So, thank you. Okay, after that business, we have a young lady for the Youngstown Library. I'd like to give you a presentation, Carolyn Reese. Thank you, Carolyn.
Hi, thank you. Where is the best place for me to stand? How do you want me to?
Wherever you're comfortable.
Wherever you want to stand.
Stand off the side or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Whatever you like.
Is this okay? Okay. Well, hello. Hi, I'm Carolyn Rice. I'm the director of Adamstown Area Library. And I just, first of all, wanted to say how grateful I am for my staff and for this community. I've only been in the position for 3 months, and already the outpouring of support that we've received has been really wonderful. So I've been really grateful for that. So tonight, I just wanted to share a little bit about the library, where we are, and where we are going. Wonderful. So far this year we've had 87,594 visitors to the library. So we are on track for a 10% increase from last year's numbers. We have 10,821 registered patrons, which is just about the population of East Cocalico, so that's really wonderful. One of our goals is to have every resident in our service area with a library card. We are working towards that goal. We've had 387 new registrations this year so far. The next statistic up there, we've had 120,000 physical materials checked out, almost 4,000 digital materials checked out, and then that's our spending for new print books, and that does include children's materials, and it does include ADA materials. Our internet presence is really flourishing. Most of those website visits are people looking into our passport processing or people looking at our events calendar, but of course we have people also looking for our online databases and people looking for updates about the new library, which of course I will get to as well. We're looking at a 3% raise in public computer sessions, and then we have 1,009 total Facebook followers. So if everyone in this room wants to add to that number, we would be very happy to have you. And then the last statistic up there, we are on track for an 18% increase in our program attendance from 2018, which is really wonderful. We've only had a handful more programs that we've offered, and so that really is in part to Jess and Laura, our wonderful staff members who have programs that are entertaining and engaging, but are also fulfilling a need in our community. And then that last number there is just a little bit to show how busy we are, answering questions and helping our patrons every day. Okay, this is the part that's probably the most exciting. So I do want to start off by saying thank you to the township for your contributions to the library. We know that with this new building, we're really going to be able to focus on our relations with our community and really expand our library services and our resources. So this is a timeline. It is estimated, but this is what we're hoping for. So we have completed all of the permits. So we have the building permit, the demolition permit, the plumbing, the electrical, all that stuff has been completed. November, so that's the demolition, which will hopefully start tomorrow. We got rained out today, but we're hoping for the complete demolition will be completed by next week. And even though we are finally making moves starting this build, we are still fundraising, so we're going to be kicking off another round of fundraising with our groundbreaking ceremony, which is 10 a.m. on the 16th. So hopefully the board has received their invitations for that, but that's really exciting. And then by the end of the year, I've been told that it's supposed to start looking like something, so we should have the foundation and the frame up, and then by the end of April, we're hoping to be wrapped up with construction, and then start moving furniture and equipment into the new building for our May grand opening. Yeah.
Very impressive.
I think so too, and hopefully
I'm out winner.
What was, just real quick,
Yeah, sure.
they originally had plans, I thought, for like 3 stories and things like that. They cut that back, right?
Right, yeah, so we would have to rebuild the entire stairwell of the apartments, and it was just gonna be not worth the money to be able to, we wouldn't have been able to afford it. So that whole part is being demolished. The only part that's really staying is just like the big room, so the bar, that's going, and everything else will be built. And then we are having 2 phases. So we have a community room that will be added later when we need more money to be able to build that.
So the design right now is 1 floor.
It's 1 floor.
Okay.
Yes.
It's much more affordable.
Yes,
Construction.
correct. Yeah. We were hoping to maybe make some money from renting out that section, but it just wasn't gonna work out.
Okay.
Yeah, but keep up on the website, because we are posting updates, and we should have a new floor plan going up there soon, so you'll see that. Okay, so these are some upcoming, or I guess actually the first one's happening right now, but November is a very busy month for us. So right now we're in the middle of our 4th annual restaurant week. So that's where we partner with local restaurants, and a portion of the proceeds that we make during the week goes to our Room to Grow campaign. So the 5 restaurants that we have are Park Place, 2 Cousins, Village House, Country Corner, and Courtyard Cafe. So if you don't have plans for dinner yet for tomorrow, I recommend going to one of those 5. And then our Bucks for Books annual dinner and auction, that's on Saturday, and that is a fundraiser that the Friends put out. So it's going to be a wonderful dinner. There'll be a live auction, a silent auction, raffles. There's a secret wine table. The tickets are sold out for that, but anyone can come afterwards to the auction for free. For the dinner, excuse me, the tickets are sold out for the dinner. And then again, very exciting, the groundbreaking is November 16th. So the demolition will have been completed by then, and then we're just going to be looking forward to the new building. And then lastly, the Extra Give 2019 is November 22nd. So we are going to be participating, and we're very excited to have funds from that also go toward our Room to Grow campaign. We were really happy with what we received last year, so we're hoping for another good year. So as I mentioned, we serve a large portion of the population through our programming. These were some of our biggest events that we had this year. So the Rocketing Reptiles program had 105 attendees, so we did have to head to Peace Church to be able to fit everyone in. The middle program is an adult program that we did with the Mutual UFO Network, and that had 48 adults attend. And then that last picture is really the prime reason why we need this new building. We have 4 to 5 story times every single week, and that particular story time has 64 participants, so there was no way we were going to be able to fit in our tiny space, so we did have to go to the borough room for that. And then I just wanted to share some other programs that we have going on. One of our main focuses is outreach, so we do a lot of visits with schools in the area. We've had Adamson Elementary Canal, we've gone to Brecknock, we've gone to Cocalico Care Center, Pine Grove Preschool, Luther Care for Kids. We were at Reamstown Night Out, Denver Fair Kitty Day, YMCA Fun Fest. We were at Discover Denver last month. And then we also participate in the Adamstown, Reamstown, and Denver Fun Days. And this particular photo is from yoga at the Adamstown Grove, and that was something that we did in conjunction with the Cocalico School's summer lunch program. We were just trying to up their number of participants by having some fun activities going on. So we're the charter for Boy Scout Family Pack 3204. So our responsibility is just to support them as they go throughout the program. So we'll serve as a sometimes meeting space, and we'll just encourage them throughout their participation. And then this was the opening for our summer reading kickoff. So we had police cars, we had fire trucks, we had face painting, we had therapy dogs. And we also had a couple of camps come out. So we had Camp Conquest, YMCA Camp, and Refreshing Mountain. They all came out and provided some giveaway prizes for the day. They were also able to talk a little bit about the summer camps and what they do. The YMCA camp comes every Wednesday to listen to stories and to exchange books. We also love having local authors come out and you can talk to the kids and read stories. So this is Adam Altman, and then that's JJ Landis, and then that one's Kevin Hewitt. So Family Place is a grant program through the Commonwealth, and their goal is to provide resource professionals, so like speech therapists, nutritionists, and reading specialists to families that wouldn't be able to afford them outside of the program. And they also, of course, have lots of toys for the kids to play with. We love working with our community partners. So this was a story time that was sponsored by Creekside Dental, and they provided toothbrushes and toothpaste to all of the attendees of that program. Another way we like to work with the community is through our mystery guest book club. So the goal of that is to have kids learn about different careers in the community, and also for the parents to be able to see what they have going on in the community. So this particular mystery guest was from Courtyard Cafe. And then there's Red Robin, of course, from Red Robin. And then there's Mayor Red K. And then we've also had the Ephrata Police come out several times for story times. The kids, of course, are really excited to see the police cars. And then this is a program we do at West Cocalico through a grant that they received to teach us about stormwater runoff. Here are some things that you maybe might not have known that we have. So we do sell coffee and snacks, and all the supplies for that are directly donated to the library, so we're really grateful for those donors. We do have virtual reality headsets. Just recently we started circulating American Girl doll clothes, which people are really excited about because they're quite expensive. And then the bottom middle there is our sensory storytime bags. So they actually started because our story times were so full that parents would come in, look at the crowds, and then turn right back around and walk out. So we wanted those kids to have a chance to have some type of story time, and they actually worked really well for children who do have sensory issues. So if our big crowd was too noisy or too overwhelming, the child could have puppets and books that they could take home with them themselves. One more slide, maybe. And then that last one there is Nature Explorer Pack, and that was sponsored by Giant as a part of our Summer Fitness Quest, but that is available for checkout all year round. Okay, so I do just have a few other programs to share. I'm sorry, they're all going to be kids, but kids are just so much more fun to look at. So But this is for 1,000 books before kindergarten. So if you read one book to your child every day from birth to 3 years, it'll be about 1,000 books. So this is just something we do to help kids get prepared for kindergarten. They get 2 books, one for 500 and one for 1,000 books read, and those are provided by the library system. And then we have a babysitting basics class and a CPR class that we did through WellSpan. And it was just, we did it right before the summer, so kids would be ready for babysitting during the summer. It was a really wonderful, successful program, so we're going to do that again in April. And then this is the Cocalico Middle School Band and the Select Singers. They came out to perform for us. And then Dr. Seuss's birthday party, that was done in conjunction with the Boy Scouts. So they really ran the whole show. They did the decorations, they planned the games, they planned all the programs. The Star Lab was a rental through the IU13. We had 2 Cocalico teachers come out to run that for us. And obviously that couldn't fit in the library, so we used the fire hall. And then this is just another large program that couldn't fit in the library. We had to go to St. John's Lutheran. This was a ventriloquist and an optician. And then I know it's kind of hard to read. Actually, your screen is very good. But these are just 100 things that we, that you may or may not have known that we have in the library. And I just think it's neat to see. Obviously, we have more than this, but it's just neat to see them all kind of laid out this way. So some surprising things maybe would be our Wii console, we have karaoke machine, we have a movie license, and we do free book giveaways every single week. So thank you guys for letting me present, and everyone here for listening to me, and for being so supportive of the library. I'm really looking forward to improving our services throughout the next year, and for our current patrons as well as drawing new patrons into the library. And so we're all, again, just very thankful for the community support that allows us to reach our goals as we serve guys moving on. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
So we're going to, Carolyn, you showed many slides where you had to go to different venues because yours wasn't large enough. Is your new building?
We're tripling the size.
You're tripling size, so you won't have to
Yes.
seek
So
other venues.
yeah, so we're really excited. So our biggest community space is going to be a part of phase 2, but we will have a community space that is much bigger than what we currently have. So we'll be able to use that and eventually both of them when we have them both. So yes.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions
Yes.
for Carolyn?
Sorry my back was towards you guys at the time, but hopefully it was okay.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, past meeting minutes for approval. Any additions or corrections to the meeting minutes of our meeting October 17th?
I make a motion we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Department reports. Chief.
Good evening. I give my full report at the next meeting. I have 2 items to talk about. I'll try to keep it short. I saw on the second page of the agenda that there was a pending resolution in reference to the drug task force support and request. I will fill you in on the meeting that was held down at the county for the budget hearing with the district attorney and the 3 Lancaster County commissioners. I won't get into a whole lot of things, but I can say as a police officer for 22 years, I've seen things on the street and around that I would expect to see as a police officer. I became chief a year year and a half ago or so, and I never thought I would see a spectacle as I saw that day from a bunch of professionals down at the county. It was truly, I don't know what other word to use but then amazing. The county commissioners used that time to, two of the county commissioners, I should say, used that time to, in my opinion, it was just a completely unprofessional budget session. I thought we were there for a hearing about the drug task force, not to either air dirty laundry or accuse people of things. So it's my recommendation, and again, I haven't read over the resolution, but if the township supports the Lancaster County Drug Task Force, which I believe is a huge and very important thing in this county. They do phenomenal work. They assist our department, or we assist them all the time, as much as we possibly can by sharing information and doing all the things that we need to do to keep drug dealing and the things that go along with it in check. If we do support the Drug Task Force and make it a line item budget, I would highly recommend that we hold that money until the fourth quarter of the year 2020 to determine what the county commissioners have decided to do to resolve the issue. It's my recommendation. The second thing I have is a formal request for an additional officer to begin on or around January 1st, 2020. And I have some justifications for that. I told you at the beginning of the year that I would, after a certain period of time, look into, gather the data, and see how the SRO program is going. And I can say that everything I've heard about the SRO program at the school has been positive from the staff, from the teachers, from the administration, from parents. It is a vital program for us, and I do not see that going away anytime soon, nor would I recommend it. Due to that fact, and some others I'll talk about, but since the beginning of the year, Officer Fisher handled 112 incidents or activities. These were things that he called out on the radio and got a report number for, or a case number, or they weren't all necessarily bad things, it was things he was doing. But I can say that those incidents and activities were not what he accomplishes or has accomplished in his time there, from even the little things, going to the lunches at the elementary school or whatever. He doesn't necessarily get a case number or report number for those. So to track those activities would be very difficult. But 112 incidents that he handled where a patrol officer did not have to leave the sector and go handle it within the school district was tremendous for us. It was absolutely tremendous. We have 14 patrol officers currently, and then my position, I mean the 15th officer. With that being said, we work 12-hour shifts, and we have day shift and evening shift. One of the evening shifts, since Officer Fisher went into the SRO program, has been, we have been utilizing 2 officers. Except on the weekends and during the summer, early summer, and then late summer, we had to put an additional officer on that shift at an overtime rate just for safety reasons. It was just the right thing to do. So I totaled the entire cost, I should say the number of hours to cover vacation time, personal time, leave time, flex time. If they work 12-hour shifts and they would work them all, they would actually work 4 hours. So they get 4 hours, they work 1 8-hour shift basically. So to cover that with overtime, because those 2 officers couldn't take that time, we totaled, and this is also due to the fact that one of the officers was hurt and off for approximately 4 months, so we had to replace that officer. It was 667.5 hours of overtime paid, which on an average, if you take, I just used an average of $55, it's approximately $36,000. So after the budgetary concerns, the shift coverage concerns, I would request that we would start the process to hire an additional officer, bringing the total number to 15. Again, with myself added to that, we would have 60. That would provide 3 officers per shift every day, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
I want to add one thing to what you're saying. So the public clearly understands this. We talk about the MMO a lot, which is the municipal minimum obligation, basically what we're contributing in for the police pension. That number tends to be very, very high. The overtime is a direct negative impact to that MMO. So the more overtime your officers are putting in, it actually is worse for us in the long term because that MMO, it's a key driver in that MMO calculation. So bringing another officer on is actually positive to get that number down.
Plus, we get money from the state for having each officer, separate officer, so that there's money there.
So it's my request and recommendation.
We need to make a motion. Yeah.
What's the lead time for you to pick that officer up?
We hire officers that have their Act 120 training, or the academy, if you want to call it that. So once we go through the test, well, we won't go through the testing, we'll use a consortium or the possibility of other applicants. We'll go through the applicant process. They'll have about a month to turn that application in. After that, we will go through the interview process, narrow it down, and probably at this point do 2 or 3 background checks. They usually end up weeding out the field of candidates, and then we will make that offer. I would hope that we could do it by January 1st, but that may be pushing it. So it'll be sometime, I would think maybe February, March, very beginning of March, I would hope at the very latest. If we get an experienced officer, by chance, his training will be nearly the same as before, and that's a 14-week period. A new officer, they'll get 14 weeks. An experienced officer may not be that long.
So it's a long lead time.
It is. So if we start now, we can move into the next year with a positive in that regard.
So you'd like a motion to authorize you to start the process?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize the chief to start the process to look at a new hire for the police department, an officer.
I'll second that motion.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you, Chief.
Chief, can I just say one thing too? Your comments about the SRO, I just want the public to know this because there's a lot of people here. The SRO, the school resource officer, the police officer attached to the school over at Cocalico High School, I have also heard nothing but excellent things about it. And one of the most difficult things, I think, for that police officer, for us as a municipality, for your police department is, you touched on it, is what he's doing is qualitative in nature. You can't assign a value to it. It's so difficult to measure the positive work he's doing because, and it's one of those things that unless you're hearing the feedback and you hear the private things that you hear about what they're involved in, it's very, very difficult to truly appreciate the amount of work that's being done behind the scenes by him. And thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any other questions of the Chief? Okay, moving on to the zoning officer. Tony.
Yes, good evening, everybody. As the chief, I'll give a full report at our next Board of Supervisor meeting, but I only have 2 items just to mention. Garden spot frame and ornament is nearing completion. As you can see, that site has really come a long way. Brent and I have been visiting the site periodically as well as myself and Ken. But they're doing a heck of a job. They're on the roof. Everything's going well. And secondly, the Members First is on the roof as we speak. They were putting windows in yesterday, and it wasn't too soon. It was rain coming in. And one last thing, just want to welcome Ms. Paula aboard as manager. She's got the full cooperation of the zoning and code enforcement office. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Any questions of the zoning officer? Okay, thank you, Tony. Roadmaster, Chris.
Hello.
Hello.
We finished up milling and repairing patches throughout the township. We did our last patch in Heatherwoods for the year. Looking at the remainder of the Heatherwoods Drive, there's going to be multiple patches come next spring. So we'll be back at that, weather permitting. We rented the bucket truck with a driver to Denver Borough for the borough to hang more of the veterans banners along the main streets. I had Shank door at the shed to tighten up one of our garage doors. We had trouble trying to keep the door in the tracks. Plaster was there to do their yearly maintenance on the loader and also put a new line in for the accelerator pedal. Being in salt, it had a tendency to want to stick while the guy's going down the road. That's not a good thing.
No, that's not a good thing.
We finished up the right-of-way mowing for the year. We had the rental of the boom mower. We used the boom mower again to get a bunch of the unwanted vegetation growing that would require us to use chainsaws along the tree lines and also to clear out a lot of the sight distance problems at intersections. I had a meeting with PPL to go over the specs for getting a new panel box on the lower parking lot to the pool. I also met with Land Studies to go over what the stream bank restoration was going to be like down at the pool. Today, well, not today, but this week we dug out the footers. We installed a new panel box and we poured the concrete. So we'll be waiting on the electrician and PP&L to stick the panel box and the meter on there, and then we'll have power. Then we can proceed to tie the power into the new lights and empty the creek of the underwater cables that are going through it. The road crew attended an LTAP training session on pavement markings, applications, and maintenance. They pay attention. They came back and they picked a sign off in the township here that somebody put a red reflector on the post. So I know they pay attention. If it's a red stop sign, you put a red reflector on the post. If it's a white speed limit sign, you put a white reflector on the post. If it's a warning sign on a turn, you put a yellow reflector on the post. I will contact that resident, let him know that he might want to take that down, or we'll remove it and put it at a stop sign. I had a meeting with Chief Kepley, Penny Allen, and Ritu engineer John Schick to go over traffic calming options for North Reamstown Road. I don't know if he's got to read the report on any of that yet, but Mr. Schick gave out different options that we can do to try and calm the traffic.
Yeah. We got a price of a sign that shows the speed.
Yes,
Chief had
that was one of his options.
Yeah.
We cleaned up the township multiple times from the high winds and the heavy rains. At this time, we're working on filling in a few of the road edges, scraping a couple of the roads. And at that point, we're going to start cleaning up the trucks and starting to mount the spreaders on them. Winter's coming. That's all I had for my report. I have one thing I'd like to talk to you about. I'd like to make a budget change if possible. We had budgeted monies for the shed. I would like to take the monies that we have budgeted for the new salt storage bin and put that towards getting another development done. I don't want to drag out the developments more years than I have to, because that's just going to put all my outlying roads not having maintenance performed on them. If I can get another development done that cuts a year off my schedule, I will be able to get back to the outlying roads and get everything taken care of. The roads in the developments are really rough. We need to get them done as soon as possible, and I'd like to use the monies that we had budgeted for the salt bin and put that to another development.
Which one are you thinking about there, Chris? Was it the one we talked about?
I have Rose Hill. I have Rose Hill scheduled. That was approved in your budget. I'd like to get a homestead taken care of.
Okay.
Okay.
And that would leave me the worst two developments being Reamstown Heights and Meadowbrook to take care of in the next 2 years. More monies are going to be needed for those two developments because they're in the worst shape.
Okay.
So if I can get Homestead, which would be a lot cheaper than doing Meadowbrook
Yeah.
or Reamstown Heights done this year, then that just leaves me the two most expensive ones to finish. And then in 2 years, we would have the developments done and we can put all our focus back into the outlying roads.
Okay.
Okay.
We do desperately need a salt bin. With the township growing, it would be ideal before these next two developments are completely built, Carriage Hills and the one back here in Heatherwoods, it'd be nice to have a salt bin, but I'd like to delay that at least for a year or two.
Well, just so everybody understands, we do have a salt bin now, we want a bigger one.
We need a bigger one.
It's not like we don't have
with the township growing, we need more supply on hand.
I understand. I didn't think everybody else did.
But there's only so much money.
I understand that.
That's the trouble.
I don't know, I want to thank you for having a vision of putting those residents first versus the salt bin. I mean, if you're comfortable with that, I mean, that's a great idea.
It is, it's
That'll
just,
pull us in, because we're looking 4 years out now on these and 5 years out. So now you're pulling in a year, I think Homestead was looked at, we were looking at that one for year 3, right?
yes.
Am I right? And so we're pulling it in, okay,
Okay.
that's a good idea.
If you're asking for permission to do it, I say yes, you can do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll gladly
Yeah.
switch.
We'll switch, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Then we have a Stephenson Equipment Mower Purchase Agreement for approval and signature. What's the wish of the board? This will be a 5-year lease.
And payments won't start until next May.
The delivery.
Right. We're locking in today's price, but don't start paying till next May.
And this is the one with the enclosed cabin,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
So this meets the new OSHA standards.
Yes.
And you can go home when it rains.
We can mow in the rain. We won't have a driver complaining of bee stings anymore.
5-year lease, it's
5-year
not a
lease.
purchase.
It's a lease purchase.
Please, purchase.
It's the last thing you pay $1 more and then it's yours. Yeah.
Say something?
Yes, go ahead.
So, Chris,
Yes.
question for you. That's a lot of money. So you're gonna purchase this and it's gonna be new. Are there not used leased ones out there for a lot cheaper money? It's kind of like a new car. You buy a new car, drive it off the lot, and it depreciates in value immediately.
There are some, like the boom mower that we had here that we just rented,
Mhm.
they don't have a transmission that breaks down to a very low creeping gear. That's the problem with this tractor that we have.
Okay,
It's not built for what we're using it.
okay.
And that's the constant reason why we're losing the clutch and everything else with this tractor. This tractor that we have ordered will specifically be geared low enough to take care of mowing around all the signs and telephone poles and mailboxes, which our tractor's not capable. It's capable of doing it, but what it's doing is basically ruining the tractor in the process of doing it.
And how often will you use this? I'm just trying to,
The mower?
stop here.
4 or 5 months out of the year, the boom mower,
Okay,
we just rented that for a week. We wanted it for 2 weeks. We could not get it for 2 weeks.
okay.
We can take this mower out anytime. It's gonna have a controlled cab environment. I mean, I wouldn't send anybody out if we could mow in winter, if the grass was growing in winter, I couldn't send anybody out in the tractor we have now for the simple fact it's an open cab.
Any other questions?
More or less, what's the end of life on something like this? What do you, more or less, what do you expect it to do?
I'm expecting a mower that's built for what it's supposed to be should be able to last quite a few years. That was the problem with ours. I mean, we got 18 years out of our tractor, but we put a lot of money into that tractor the last 5 years.
Okay, so let's look at it this way. The way I think of it is this is an investment, right?
Yeah.
So this investment is good for 10, 15, 20 years?
I'm saying at least 20 plus it should be.
Okay. So if you look at it that way, at an $80,000 investment, right? I'm sorry, 146. Yeah. So at 20 years, you're at, what is that? 7,000 a year, $8,000 a year. So how much if you have to rent something,
You spending 7,000 for,
7,000 for 2 weeks.
Okay.
yeah,
7,000 for 2
when
weeks.
you rented in one, yeah.
Wow.
And that's not including delivery charge.
Okay, so it's just, sorry. So just so I'm clear, a 2-week rental on this kind of equipment
7,000
is
plus
basically,
delivery charge.
is basically the prorated amount of this equipment over a 20-year span. Wow.
And the tractor we have that you would sign off if you do tonight, we have 2 features with that tractor. We're actually having the flail, which is the normal mower that you see mowing along the road edge, and then we have the boom. So we're getting 2 for the price of 1 because we can mow all summer. When it's time to go after the stuff that this mower normally can't reach, we strap the boom onto it. Then you got the reach. Now you go after all the areas that are hazardous to try and get in with a chainsaw or something else.
Like the end of Hill Road down here.
This is more than just a roadside mower then?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, all our dangerous areas for visibility at intersections, this mower gives us the reach to get into those areas.
Yeah, you can take the boom and go, which you're not supposed to go like that.
No, you're not supposed to crush down on something. It's not good for it.
did already.
Stuff like that. What's the wish of the board?
This is in the budget.
Yes, it's in the budget.
30,000, the $31,000 lease, I saw that, okay.
Double check.
I remember seeing that 30,000 lease.
Yep. It's a lease.
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and enter into the lease to purchase for that tractor, based on what I'm hearing here, for sure. Because that's an investment we're gonna need to make. At the rate we're trying to grow East Cocalico right now, one of the things we need to be concerned about is the image of our roadways and how they look as people are driving through our community.
And the safety of intersections.
And the safety of those intersections, absolutely. All we need is one liability lawsuit because of lack of visibility pulling out of an intersection.
For somebody hurt. I'll second the motion. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. We can sign it. List of bills, treasurer.
Okay. Got a list of bills, and they are as follows. You have a total general fund of $92,525.38, and a total state fund of $3,952.33. Questions? Hearing none, I make a motion we pay the bills as presented.
I'll second the motion. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Land planning. Good evening.
First item on the agenda is Carriage Hill Phase 3 and 4, the preliminary final subdivision plan. Relatively minor item associated with that project. The plan, just some background on the project. This is the, I'll call it the last remaining phases of Carriage Hill, which will be 35 additional single-family lots. The plan has been in review, and we are awaiting an updated submission. The authority has also reviewed the plan. The item before you tonight is to deal with what is referred to as the DEP sewage facility postcard exemption, and that's kind of a, I'll call it a bookkeeping exercise relative to sewage flows and capacity for conveyance, collection, and treatment facilities. So the motion would be to authorize the representative of the board to sign, board of supervisors to sign section 8D of the DEP sewage facilities postcard exemption for public sewage service related to the Carriage Hill Phase 3 and 4 preliminary final subdivision plan. And that document does include all sign-offs from the authority and the borough as far as sewage conveyance, collection.
Is anybody here representing that? Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next item will involve a little more discussion. The presidential cabinet, for the preliminary final land development plan. There are representatives here tonight. The basic background, this was essentially the conversion of an existing structure into a more formalized land development, and it proposed the addition of about 36 to 3,500 square foot addition to the cabinet making shop. The plan had been before you previously with recommended conditional approval. One of those items, lingering items relative to that conditional approval, was related to the access. One of the conditions is that they obtain shared access agreement with the neighbor to more formalize the current arrangement, which is a shared access arrangement. As further background, the shared access was not identified through any prior recorded easements, deeds, or any other recorded documentation. So the goal with this project, with an expansion, was to try to get that the rights and privileges and obligations associated with that further clarified. So the simple response is that was challenging. Initially, it was anticipated through verbal communications between the parties that things would work out, and they haven't. Subsequently, the township solicitor has issued correspondence indicating, well, if you shift a portion of the drive to essentially provide the 20-foot width, which was approved as part of the plan, provided on the subject property and directly adjacent to the remaining portion of the existing drive, on the adjacent property, that would be deemed adequate to him in terms of resolving the issue for the time being. So along those lines, the applicant has submitted for a waiver of a subdivision land development requirement pertaining to access drive, which typically would require the access drive to be shifted 10 foot off the property line, but it does, that section goes on to reference arrangements of shared parking and others. So rather than debating whether that waiver is appropriate or not, the process was to process the waiver, acknowledge the issue, have it depicted on the plan, and have all parties from the planning commission and the board weigh in. So along those lines, there was discussion at the last planning commission meeting about this. They recommended approval of that waiver. And in conjunction with that, then they also raised the issue of, well, should the applicant then proceed to pave the main stem portion of the drive, since the adjacent portion would remain in gravel on the adjacent property, or should they just be authorized to allow it to remain as stone? Pave the apron, pave the radius off the right-of-way, end of the radius, terminate the pavement, and Dave Meese from Dean & Sons can identify on the plan where the stem portion would be, but really take that portion back to the new parking area, which would then be paved, but solely contained on the subject property. So really, there are some other things related to the rec fee, but I think Dave can point some things out and highlight that those two waivers are really the key ones related to the access.
Okay, so that was pretty quick. Don't get any questions about that. Picture of 1,000 words, as you say.
Yeah. So look at the picture.
This is Loush Road here, 241 Loush Road. The orangish colored building is the existing. The yellow is the proposed addition that they'd like to put on there. The lease property is here, which is where the shared access drive currently exists. Originally, the existing driveway straddles the property line exactly, as it is. It's a gravel driveway today. So with the expansion of the wood shop, we're adding a parking lot and truck loading and everything like that. And initially, we were pursuing the agreement with the neighbor to memorialize the shared access drive. That kind of fell apart, and he didn't want to cooperate in the end. So we stalled out for a little while, but then, as Brent said, the solicitor issued an opinion that basically, if we just shifted everything legally over you provided the full legal width on the
On your own
subject
property, yeah.
then the remaining 6 feet that remains there on his property just remains there. So he has half a driveway on his property, and Mr. Sensitive has a full width driveway on his property.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we're at right now.
And that's what this is for.
Yes.
Yeah, and then along with that was the discussion on which portions to pave and which portions not.
Right.
So just,
So, yeah, it came up through the planning commission that it would look a little odd to be having that strip of gravel and everything like that, so the recommendation was, or the suggestion was, that we pave to basically, to the terminus here, and from here back, but the main section of the straight part would be unpaved at this time, remaining gravel.
But that would be matching the adjoining property.
Correct.
Yes, because if you pave them, one would be driving on pavement and the other would be, other tire would be on the gravel, so
Right.
that's not very conducive.
And I hate to bring it up, but for MS4, isn't it better for it to remain?
That's a good word.
It's stormwater, I think, paving,
Yeah.
as would be required, so someday if they come to an agreement, they
Pay the whole thing, yeah. But they're gonna pay the whole width at the top of the road, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And that wouldn't affect their operations at all in terms of driving on that gravel. So,
And I think it's based on the nature of the use, and it's not a major high-intensity
No.
retail type use, or one with a lot of large trucks and manure in. So, and as was discussed at the planning commission, the ultimate hope, I think, is that over time, either new parties get introduced and come to a better resolution of the matter. It wasn't specifically discussed at the planning commission level about, how to pursue that, and whether it would be paid, but at some point required to be paid in the future if something came up. I think that's the general expectation, so.
I think it's ingenious and logical way to approach it without slowing the whole project down.
Yeah,
Was an offer made to the neighbor to maybe pave his portion?
Yeah, it was basically, he would pay the entire driveway at his expense, maintain it at his expense.
So he would pave
Yeah.
at his, you would pay,
The
the applicant would
applicant,
pay,
the applicant was gonna take the whole bill,
and he turned down a paved driveway.
he did.
Okay.
okay. And as indicated, Tom looked at the arrangement and the radiuses and where things were constructed out by the road. Considering all factors, this is the appropriate way to do it. So, along those lines, the first motion would be a motion to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 194-28D4 of the subdivision land development ordinance related to side yard separation for access drive, to authorize the applicant to utilize the proposed access drive as depicted on the current plan, updated plan, revised October 28, 2019.
I'll make that motion.
And I will second that motion.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
The second aspect of that then would be a motion to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of sections 194-28D6, 194-28G, and 194-25K4 of the subdivision land development ordinance related to the requirement of paving access drives, and authorize the applicant to pave the access drive apron from the public roadway to the radius of the access drive apron, and authorize the applicant to utilize stone and gravel from the end of the apron, paved apron radius to the proposed parking lot area.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Then some more routine things, and this goes back to the fact that the plan was previously conditionally approved. So some of the conditions related to the park and open space fee and the determination of the amount. Dave had provided some information, what we've done in the past, or the board has done in the past, would be to allow the use of the assessed value for smaller projects where the the assessment itself or state certified assessment would be a significant portion of the extra fee to be collected. And utilize methodology which respects existing portions of the operation on a commercial or non-residential scenario. So if somebody had an existing industry and essentially put the same size addition as they currently have, they would end up paying 50% of the right fee, which is 2.5% of the value of the property. So along those lines, the motion would be to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 19446B2 and 19446B4 of the subdivision land development ordinance related to the park and open space to authorize the applicant to utilize the current assessed land value and acknowledge the acceptance of the methodology and resulting fee in lieu of park and open space land dedication in the amount of $1,622.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
And then, since there was some uncertainty relative to the applicant's participation in LRTA, I felt we could pass another motion which would essentially recognize that if they were to participate in LRTA, the parking open space fee requirement would be waived per the board's prior LRTA policy. So the motion would be to approve a waiver of the requirements of section 19446 of the subdivision land development ordinance related to the requirement to dedicate land and or pay the park and open space fee in lieu of land dedication if the applicant submits an application and participates in the LRTA program.
I'll make that motion.
I will second that motion.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And you had previously authorized conditional approval and then also had motions to acknowledge the authorization to sign the improvement guarantee agreement and associated financial security as determined acceptable to the township. One of the items lingering was the resolution of the driveway. They have, in light of your approval of the waiver modification, they had provided two cost opinions, one with the additional asphalt, one without. So the appropriate motion in light of the prior action would be to acknowledge the required amount of financial security to be established with the township with residential cabinets, preliminary final land development plan in the amount of $70,670.75 per the approved opinion of probable construction costs prepared by Dean & Son dated November 5th, 2019.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And then the final motion, since, as Dave mentioned, there was some time delay there in trying to resolve the access drive issue with the adjoiner. Typically, your acknowledgement of approval has to be within 90 days of the date they record the plan. So to avoid any conflicts there, the motion would be to re-acknowledge conditional approval of the presidential cabinet preliminary final land development plan as previously granted on July 18, 2019, conditioned upon the applicant addressing the remaining outstanding items as identified in the Becker review email dated October 25, 2019, and the applicant's consultant updating the plans to reflect actions associated with the waiver modification. And that's to the satisfaction of township zoning law, township engineer, township solicitor.
I would make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for seeing you.
They're going to be back for an encore.
Non-core. All right.
The next project is a stormwater management plan for Lowell, Carroll, Martin. That project was previously conditionally approved by the board, along with several waiver modifications. We are now working our way through some of the final administrative items. The consultant just recently was informed that their NPDS permit and associated erosion and sedimentation control plan are essentially approved by the conservation